world's eyes are on Moscow. Chinese President Xi Jinping arrived in Russia earlier today for the first time since the war in Ukraine broke out. In Moscow, Xi has come with an agenda to solidify China's position on the global stage and to be the peacemaker in the Ukraine conflict. Just a few hours ago, the two leaders began the much-awaited talks. In the opening remarks, Xi Jinping hailed China and Russia's close ties, while Putin said the two countries have plenty of common objectives.
很高兴有机会再次并且面对面的祝贺您再次当选中国。这是归功于中华。
Уважаемый господин председатель, дорогой друг, добро пожаловать в Россию, в Москву. Рад возможности уже лично поздравить вас с переизбранием на пост главы китайского государства.
尊敬的普京总统，我也称你为我亲爱的朋友。我非常高兴能够应你之约，再一次访问俄罗斯，并且是在我连任国家主席之后的首访国家。
For Xi, the visit is a diplomatic tightrope. A month ago, China released a broad 12-point proposal to solve the Ukraine crisis while strengthening ties with Moscow. And during the talks, Putin said Russia was open to discussing the Chinese plan. Even before Xi departed for Moscow, Beijing has been branding the trip as a peace mission, one where China seeks to play a constructive role in promoting talks. On leaving Moscow after his 3-day state visit, Xi, reports suggest, will hold virtual talks with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. If this does in fact happen, it will be the first time that the two leaders have spoken since the Russian invasion in February last year. And speaking of firsts, the Putin meet is also Xi's first state visit overseas since cementing his third term in power. Proof of what some analysts say is a powerful friendship between the two leaders. The 3-day state visit is a major display of solidarity with Russia from its most important global partner. It comes amid warnings from Washington that Xi might back Russia directly by providing arms, claims that China has so far denied. With the visit now underway, the West is looking for an answer to a specific question. Will Xi Jinping play the peacekeeper or provocateur? For more on this, we're now joined by Edward Joseph. He's a senior fellow at the Johns Hopkins University. Thanks very much for speaking to WION. Now, China claims Xi Jinping is on a peace mission, hoping to broker peace between Russia and Ukraine. It's ironical, some might say, given China's own growing aggression in multiple regions as perceived by the international community. But can China truly be an honest peace broker, given that it has largely sided with Russia in this war?
No, it can't be an honest broker, but if President Xi Jinping chooses to, he can exert significant influence on Vladimir Putin. And yes, China could be a key part of a move towards actually getting this terrible war to end. But it's very unlikely for the reasons you state correctly. China's so-called peace plan, the first element of which, the most important element of which talks about sovereignty and territorial integrity, China clearly doesn't care about that and clearly doesn't respect that, because we know that Russia, in an unprovoked fashion, invaded Ukraine and has blatantly disregarded Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. And that's not just a comment coming from the United States and its European Union and NATO allies. That's the considered decision of the entire global community, because a year ago, in the first of several UN General Assembly resolutions, by a vote of 141 to 5, only 5 countries siding with, actually 4 siding with Russia, the global community said that Russia is the aggressor and that Russia should withdraw its troops. Yes, there were about 35 countries that abstained, but 111 who are not members of NATO agreed, went along, and that is the decision the considered decision of the international community. This is a violation by Russia of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. And unfortunately, China doesn't really care about that. Please.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. There are reports that once the Moscow visit ends, President Xi could hold virtual talks with the Ukrainian president. In the recent past, President Zelensky has expressed some hope over Beijing's so-called peace plans. Do you think Ukraine will welcome Xi's talks with Putin? Also give us the American perspective. How is the US likely to perceive the so-called peace mission, given that the US and many other countries seem to think that this is actually China's disguised ambition to assert itself as a global power?
I think it's the latter, and I think President Zelensky is going to be watching, along with everyone else, all of this image-making in Moscow. I mean, spending 3 days, President Xi is spending 3 days in Moscow. They already held this photo op session of praising each other. And of course, everyone will be looking to see if there's any signals on China's part that it would actually provide weapons to China, which the United States is and its allies are very concerned about, as is Ukraine. So I think that will be the clear step and message and body language that President Zelensky will be watching. Now, of course, he's in a very difficult position. President Zelensky cannot afford to just ignore or malign China and say, I'm not interested in speaking with you, President Xi. He cannot do that. So, but he's aware, and the United States is aware, and all of Ukraine's supporters in Europe are aware that China is playing a double game here, and that Xi Jinping wants to have this call with President Zelensky not to actually advance some serious peace objective, but to try to cover his image, to make it look like President Xi Jinping is a peacemaker when he's not. Now, again, President Zelensky still needs to take that call. He has to speak with President Xi. He knows, of course, also that President Xi is the one guy, the one leader that President Putin has to listen to. So President Zelensky will take the call, but he'll take the call with eyes wide open, and he'll try to persuade President Xi, look, the only way to end this war is by you, President Xi, bringing your influence on Vladimir Putin, making it clear to him that he is grossly miscalculated and that President Putin cannot win this war. That's the message that President Zelensky has to convey. Please.
Well, it will certainly be interesting to see what emerges from these important meetings. But Edward Joseph, thank you for sharing your perspective with us.
You're welcome.